George St. Pierre, who Phil Nurse and Steve Friend works with, told me that the elbows are not about hurting, they're about cutting.
Yes.
It's about the nick. Nick. How do you teach that, Phil?
I don't think it's that hard. Basically, you just have to learn your distance. You have to learn your distance on what this distance is and what this distance is. Everybody knows this distance because it's the end of the punch. But this is the end of the elbow. You've got to adjust this. So learning that adjustment, and once you've worked it a few times, you can get the nick, as you call it.
Or as George called it. I'm quoting George.
Okay.
Now, if I elbow Benny, our stage manager, in the face right now, is he going to bleed? George St. Pierre, who Phil Nurse and Steve Friend works with, told me that the elbows are not about hurting, they're about cutting.
Yes.
It's about the nick. Nick. How do you teach that, Phil?
I don't think it's that hard. Basically, you just have to learn your distance. You have to learn your distance on what this distance is and what this distance is. Everybody knows this distance because it's the end of the punch. But this is the end of the elbow. You've got to adjust this. So learning that adjustment, and once you've worked it a few times, you can get the nick, as you call it.
Or as George called it. I'm quoting George.
Okay.
Now, if I elbow Benny, our stage manager, in the face right now, is he going to bleed? Is he guaranteed to bleed?
You need to get the nick.
How do you do that, though?
The distance.
I want to know how to teach it.
More than likely, if you threw the elbow without understanding that distance, you probably hit him with the forearm. And that's a forearm hit, which most people get twisted between hitting with the edge. They just slam with the forearm. You've got to time it and get the distance right, so you just get with the bone at the end. Okay. And if you hit those areas...
If I'm gonna hit Benny right here, I'm talking about distance here, right?
Okay.
Is that the right distance? Is that the right distance?
You got to get close enough so the bone right on the edge of your elbow is going to catch his chin.
Right.
Nope, too much. A little bit less.
Mike, you want the stool so you can reach him?
I'm wearing my lips. That's Sarah. That's for you, Matt Sarah. Thanks, Dan.
No problem, buddy.
By the way, wait, Marco, can we get a shot of Dan? Dan, stand up for a second. I want everybody to see how big Dan... Yeah, come here. Dan Miragliatta, by the way, we all hear about Big John McCarthy. He's a big referee, but Dan Miragliatta, first, how tall are you, Dan?
6'4".
6'4". Look at this guy.
You should have stayed up on that ledge.
I should have stayed up there. I still might stay up there.
You are a big... And can I tell you how old you are?
Yeah, you can tell how old I am.
47 years old. Look at this guy. 47 years old.
Yep.
Damn. That's what I love about MMA, because all you guys are in such tremendous shape. And, we're talking about Steve Friend. You work on these guys day in and day out. Rashad Evans, George St. Pierre, Frankie Edgar, Diego Sanchez. What is it about the fighters that you work on that gives them that common thread of champion material?
Spirit. I mean, there's just no doubt about it. It's just the spirit of them. And why I say that is because the real champions, you'll notice one thing about them when you meet them personally, is that they're really very kind people. They're gentle people. They're really not the bad trash talkers, really, usually. Some are. You know what I mean? And I mean, that's just the way it is. But when you find them, they really got a gentle side to them. And so I worked on B.J. Penn one time, and, B.J. does it, but he's got a gentle side to him, yeah? You know what I'm saying? Everything has its period. Everything has its time, Mike. Every person goes through certain stages and where they realize, I'm not as great as I thought I was. Oh, I'm better than I thought I was. Oh, he's better than I am. Oh, well, I'm better than him. You go through all these stages, and all those are growing experiences where you come to a realization that really this is the best that you can do is train yourself as hard as you can. Try to think the best about yourself. Try to think the best about your opponent. And try to understand your opponent as well as you can and understand yourself as well as you can. If you really understand yourself and you've trained yourself as hard as you can, there's a certain amount of confidence that comes that whenever you get touched, Mike, where the sensory comes up like this, it's not interfered through the emotional part of your brain. It goes directly into the motor function, and you're very quick. You follow me? That comes if you're relaxed with yourself. You see, and one of the things that I do, and I really don't talk to the guys about, is a lot of things I do is to discharge the energy charges, emotional, negative energy, that goes through, and we all get them. And we call it fear. But you don't want to tell people they're afraid. What you want to do is just help them, and so they come to realize what they really are. They do have the strength. They do have the ability. Everything their coaches have taught them, every bit of training that they've done, every bit of discipline that they have done, is able to really be expressed through their body at the time, because they have they not only put their physical energy into it, they put their mental energy into it, they put their emotional energy into it, and it all comes together the day they step into that octagon.
Matt Hughes wrote in his book about you. The book was called Made in America, and he said that when he looked at you, he saw a bunch of different lives, and the last life you saw was a guru. He was incapacitated the day he fought Royce Gracie.
No, it was a month before, Mike.
Okay.
Month before he flew into Las Vegas because he couldn't train. He was going to have to cancel the fight if he couldn't. I mean, his back, you have to understand, when I picked him up, he was sitting on one cheek like this. His back was so bad. And so he came to the house, and we fixed him, and he went on training, and then I helped him in the locker room just before his fight. And then, of course, then the rest is history.
How much of it is in his head? That back pain that he had, how much of it was in his head?
Almost all of it. Almost entirely.
And how do you fix that physiologically?
Well, because any emotion you have, remember what emotion is. Emotion comes from the Latin word emote, to move. It means energy in motion, man. You understand what I'm saying? If you really got into physics, quantum physics, particle physics, you really understand.
I failed that in college.
All right, man. But it doesn't really matter. What it really is...
That's why I'm on TV.
Everything that's happening is moving. Everything, whether you can see it or not, even this, except it's in a closed circuit. And so what we're really dealing with here is that emotional energy can basically upset your system, or it can enhance your system. All right? This is what happens, say a guy in sports chokes. Okay? What that really means is to choke. They do it because they feel it through here, because it's through the autonomic nervous system. But what actually happens is that in the center of their brain, in the limbic system of their brain, where all energy has to go through for the motor function, go through there before it goes.
The what system of the brain? Limbic?
Limbic. It's the emotional centers, where like the hypothalamus, pituitary gland,
of course,
amygdala, memories. You follow what
I was just going to say that.
Oh, okay.
Sounds like he's confused.
It doesn't really matter.
I'm learning all this,
What really happens is there's a whole process that sets the chemicals going on in our body. It has to process through that system before it gets to the cortex of the brain for motor function. So in other words, if I did this to you, like this, you felt that. It actually, if you and I were in combat, you would have actually withdrawn like this, wouldn't you? You'd have been, you'd have been making your moves.
I probably would have ripped your trachea out of your throat.
You would have hurt me. Okay? I understand.
I'm just saying.
Right. So what happens is that if there is a charge that is negative into there, it will interfere with the function between the sensory and the motor functions. So my job is to basically connect the inner energy system that's been proven for 1,000 years, and then I combined it with the Western medical model of anatomy, physiology, endocrinology, neurology, musculoskeletal, put it all together and figured out how it worked and developed all these techniques. And so it's really fast, and people get results. I just worked on Danny here just for,
Did you work on...
I'll tell you what, he really did. He really did. You saw me walk in with the back brace. I took it off. I limped over to here. He saw me, felt a couple things, said things were out of alignment. Kind of maneuvered a little bit here and there, and I just walked over to you without looking like I was limping.
Dan Miragliatta, obviously he's a referee at UFC, but he just opened a school in Atlantic Highlands, New Jersey. Let's talk about your school for a second. What do you do as a business owner, and a UFC referee? How do you balance the two?
Well, you keep saying UFC referee. I don't just referee.
I know.
UFC.
All right, I'm sorry. MMA referee.
A lot of different organizations.
Yep.
I'm one of the lucky ones that's with the UFC. Thank God. It's a nice step up. But the school's the toughest thing. Like, I work full-time. I run a backhoe for the water company, and I've been doing that for 25 years. That's my main job. I just teach martial arts to the kids because I've done it for so many years, and I just love teaching it. And the kids that I have are good kids. And we work out down in Atlantic Highlands at the five-star personal fitness training center. We lease a little room that they have there, and that helps us out because they don't charge us a lot for the kids. And we kick back to the school. A little bit goes back to the PTO for the Henry Hudson Regional High School there. And it's fun. I have kids that are learning. They're, like magnets. You throw something at them and they just absorb it and they get better real quick.
Are you in the UFC game?
Officially or unofficially? Maybe when it comes out in May.
Okay, good.
That's what they tell me anyway. We did the voiceover in California.
Good.
And well, my kids aren't supposed to know yet, so hopefully they're not watching this.
Well, that is one of the biggest things with all of us we have in common. It's fun. It is fun to watch people improve. It's fun to watch people get better. It's fun to watch people perform to their maximum, their potential. I mean, any one of us could say that. You watch. I was with Frankie at Rutgers, watching him what he was doing with those kids the other day. I mean, true joy, what he's doing.
You get much more enjoyment out of teaching the kids.
Yeah.
I have students that have been with me since they were 12 years old, and now they're 30, and they have children of their own. And it's good to be a part of their life besides just being a martial arts instructor.
Phil Nurse, you've been around for a long time. Like I said, you were a European Muay Thai champion, and now you've got this great school called the Watt. And you train some of the best strikers in the game. How do you balance owning your own business, being Phil Nurse, and also being the guy in the corner for some of the best fighters in the world?
I suppose just being me. I've always been loving the arts, and the same thing like we're saying about teaching kids. These guys aren't kids, but it's like you try to give them your all, because you want to see the result, what they come up with, and just that's always been me. I've always wanted to teach. I've always wanted to help other people to make it to the top. I have my belts. It was great to see George get a belt. Great to see Rashad get one. It's just whatever I can do to help them get there. And I think more than anything, that's how I am. I just give it as much as I can give to these guys. And just good to go back to the work that the witch doctor does. I have to learn that, because I have to pass that on. When I'm in the octagon, I have to do what he tells me with that energy work. And I don't understand it all fully and 100%, but it does work. I'm working it a lot, and it does work.
One thing I've really noticed about Phil, and I mean, I just want to stay factual here, he really understands what a person really needs. I mean, not only based on their physical skills, but who the person is, how to approach them, how to do this. I've watched him do this. He's one of Sherry and my favorite people in this whole game, really.
Shari.
Shari?
Who's Shari?
My lady that manages George St. Pierre.
Oh, do I know her?
Oh, do you know her?
Shari Spencer.
Sherry Spencer.
We know Shari Spencer.
What a beautiful lady. I'm very fortunate and blessed to have her in my life. Yeah.
All right, well, we're going to say goodnight. This has been Fox Fight Game. Thanks to you guys.
No, thank you, Mike.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you.
Mike.
Thank
All
you.
right. I really appreciate you guys coming in.
All right, it's our pleasure. My pleasure.
It's fun.
Till next time, enjoy those fisticuffs.